Okay folks, here we are again. Okay, we're over at the drill press. These are the end pieces that we cut for the 3-frame nuke boxes, okay? And what I want to do, I've got a 1/2-inch Forstner bit chucked up in the drill here, and what I'm going to do is and I'm just going to eyeball these. They don't have to be exact, but I'm going to go down about 1.5 inches. No, not 1.5 inches. I'm sorry, a half inch to 3/4 of an inch down from the top of the ledge here, okay? And I'm going to drill a 1/2-inch hole with the Forstner bit, and the reason I'm going to do this is to give the box ventilation, okay? If you're using, we're going to be making some bottom boards that these can be used on, so we can do that. So you'll be able to allow air in through the entrance, but you're not actually going to have ventilation through the box if you don't have a way for air to escape on the other side. So I'm making this one kind of high on the side, and I'm cutting it. Again, forgive me if I'm in your way. I'll just show you one of these and then I'll cut it off. I'm going to do all the same. Now when I get this done, what I'm going to do is I've got a little bit of, I think I'm not sure if it's some kind of steel or aluminum, but it's metal, regular window screening. It's not number 8 hardware cloth. It's smaller than that. It's regular window screening. And I'm going to staple that on the inside of this box on this hole. And just the reason I'm going to do that is simply so that they can, the bees can have the ventilation without having to worry about robbing and guarding. They don't have to guard that entrance, in other words. Okay? Don't want to give them more work to do. They've got enough. Okay? Now, the reason I keep pulling that out and looking at it is I don't want to go all the way through from this side. Okay? And I'm waiting to just see the point of that Forstner bit show through the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over, because that's going to show me where my drill bit goes. Okay? There, see that little hole? That little hole right there, that's from the point of my Forstner bit. Now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to put that point right into that hole from this side, from the opposite side, and I'm going to finish it up that way, and I'm going to drill through it. Okay? Now, what you end up with, when I get that one little piece in there I need to remove, okay. Anyway, what you end up with is a nice clean hole, okay. If you go all the way through this plywood or what have you, and you press all the way through from one side, there's a good chance that you're going to end up with tear out on the other side. Where the bit punches through, it's going to push the wood out instead of actually cutting it off. Now when you flip it over and go that way, okay, you've already cut and severed the grain. So when you go back and finish up from this side, there's not going to be any tear out, because the last place that you drill through is actually inside the hole where you stopped on the other side. So if you're a woodworker, this is elementary to you. You know this. If you're not a woodworker, I'm just trying to throw out a tip. Okay? No big deal. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to cut off a little piece of window screen, and I'm going to take my 1/4-inch crown stapler and staple just a small piece. But first I got to finish these others up. But I'm going to do them just like I did this one. I'm sure you guys don't want to watch that, so we're going to cut it off, and we'll get back with you soon when we get to the next step. Okay folks, let me show you real quick what I've done off camera. Okay, I've got some strips of this screen wire. It's just aluminum window screen wire. And what I did was, I didn't even measure it, I just guessed at it. I took these scissors, I cut a strip off the end, and then all I need is enough to cover that hole. But here's my issue, and you may not have this same issue, but just let me explain to you what's going on. I have doubled this screen. And the reason I did that is my air compressor cuts off at 155 psi. That's way more pressure than what this gun is actually supposed to have. I don't have a regulator. This is hooked straight into the airline, and I have a problem when I do it singly that this screen, the gun shoots the staple in and it actually cuts the screen. Okay, so I double it up and I usually don't have that problem. Let's see how lucky I get this time. Okay, I usually put about 4, 5, 6 staples in there, just because I want to make sure I hold every edge down. I don't want to have it a place where over time it'll come up and eventually the bees will start going in and out there. I don't want that. Okay, so okay, yep, that worked out. I found out too that another thing I can do with this gun is I don't hold it down quite so tight to the gun's kind of old. It skips a shot every now and then. Well, it's not that old. I guarantee you it's had more than just a staple shot through this thing. Usually when I spend the money for a tool, I plan on using it. Okay, that's all I do. Here's the deal. A lot of people think, and you might be thinking the same thing. Okay, you don't need even that much ventilation for a 3-frame box. Well, here's the thing. The bees know more than you or I how much ventilation they need. Okay, it's there. If they don't need that ventilation, all they're going to do is they're going to come up here on this screen and they're going to propolize that shut. Okay? If they do that, fine. But I can't say that I didn't provide enough ventilation. Okay? If I provide, I'd rather have too much than not enough, because the bees know how to fix too much. They'll just propolize it up. But the bees, they have, unless they're mason bees, they have a harder time, or carpenter bees, or whatever you call them, they have a harder time of adding their own ventilation. Okay, so I'm gonna do the rest of these. You saw how I did that one. I'm sure you're not interested in the boring repetition, so I'm gonna cut it off. I'm gonna finish these up and then I'll get back with you, and we'll hopefully we can start putting these bad boys together. See you in a few. Now we're gonna put these bad boys together. Okay, Franklin's Tight Bond 2. Anything else, it's just glue. No, they didn't pay me to say that, but if they want to, they can. No, just kidding there. I'm not interested. We got backs, fronts, we've got sides. Okay, so that's simple. We're going to use some wood glue. Here's my, let's see, what size is this one? This is an 18 gauge brad nailer, and I have I believe I have 1 1/4 inch 18 gauge brad, yeah, 1 1/4 inch 18 gauge brad nails there. That's so, that's pretty much the size this gun takes. I have a 16 gauge nailer. It takes a bigger one, but it's not necessary for this job. So what I do, okay, when I'm getting ready to put these together, yeah, there's a little tear out here. Well, I don't know if you mind or not, but my bees don't, and they're the ones that are living this. Okay, here's what we got going on. Okay, roughly, we'll square these up as we go naturally, but pretty much this is what it's going to look like. All right, and that's, I don't know if I made it clear in the earlier video, but these are medium. These will take a medium, a medium Langstroth frame. Okay, so here we go. All right, no problem. What I do when I'm putting these together, I've already got my glue opened up here. I put a little bit here on the inside. That's going to be on the inside face, and then I put some here. Just keep in mind you don't want to overdo it close to the frame rest. You could have a lot of squeeze out, and it could make it difficult to get a frame to fit in. Not necessarily, but it could. It's just something to keep in mind. Okay, I always put too much glue. Bear with me. Bear with me. I always put too much glue. But if I don't see it squeezing out when I put a joint together, I don't think I've got enough on there. So that's just my deal. That's how I roll. Okay, I've got that together. It's flush here on the top. Pow. Okay, same thing over here. I've got that in there. Popped it in there. Didn't sound like it shot, so I put another one. Okay. Now then, what I do is I take this and I flip it up. Uh-oh, I didn't want that to happen. Anyway, okay, push them back together. Yeah, I don't feel like I've got enough glue on the joint if I don't have it. Uh-oh. If I don't have it squeezing out pretty good. So naturally I waste a lot of glue, but it makes my mind happy. My mind thinks there's not enough glue if it's not going everywhere, making a mess. But what I do is I'll take and I'll wipe that old glue off, and I mean, this is not fine furniture, so I'll take it, wipe it around there. I've got squeeze out here. Now I've got it on my table saw. I always like to get that off before it dries. It's a lot easier to clean up that way. Now flip it over. Now when you're putting these things together, keep in mind, I've done this, okay, trust me, it's very easy to do. Make sure your frame rest is facing up on both ends, or the same way on both ends, okay? It doesn't matter, you can put your frame rest up on both ends, or you can put your frame rest down on both ends, but you got to have it the same way on both ends. Don't ask me how I know that. Trust me, if there's a mistake that could be made doing something in woodworking, I've probably done it at least once. You know, I heard somebody say one time that the definition of insanity was doing something over and over and expecting a different result. Well, sometimes I just wonder if I'm insane. Now sometimes when this wood is bowed, I've cut these square, but sometimes when this wood is bowed, it's hard to get it to go together and square up properly. And what I'll do when that happens is I'll take a I don't think that shot. I'll take a clamp and I'll pull it together. Yeah, that one didn't shoot. You gotta watch out for that sometimes, especially on these old guns that I've got. I don't know if you noticed earlier when I was putting that screen on there, but my old staple gun, I think it shoots one staple and then misses about 4 times before you get it to shoot another one. But these aren't expensive nail guns, staple guns, but I guarantee you, for what I paid for them when I bought them, I've gotten my money's worth out of them. Alright, there you go. Cut a piece of cake. That looks a little bit bowed. Usually, but not always, that will correct itself. But I see something that I want to correct really quick. Okay, I don't know if you're close enough to see it, but right here there's a crease. Okay, and the reason of that is this board is bowed, this side is bowed in a little bit, and it makes it to where that face doesn't meet the end piece square. Okay, and what that causes is a big gap in there. And I don't know if it'll help or not, but I'm going to take this clamp and I'm going to try to see if I can pull that in. And if I can, I'll let it set that way while the glue dries, and then it'll be okay. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Yeah, we're good. Okay, but from the looks of it, I believe I'm going to need to let that sit on there for a little bit. Okay, squeeze out. I clean it all up. In the frame rest here, you see that glue right there? I haven't tried frames in these boxes yet, because naturally I just built it. But in the corner here, if your frames are going to fit really tight, you're going to have an issue with your frames fitting in there good. Okay, so what I do, I don't remember exactly where I left it yesterday when I was using it, but I use my hive tool. My hive tool, the end of it here, it's got a nice square corner there, and so I use that. I reach in there and it'll get up in that corner. There's still some glue there, but what's there by the time it dries is not going to be built up enough that it's going to affect my fit when the frames go in. Okay, so I did the same thing there. That's a pretty good angle there to reach up in that corner and pull all that glue out. And a little squeeze out doesn't hurt. I like a lot of squeeze out, but I always go back and clean it up too. So I mean, I don't leave it that way. Alright, so that one just needs to set a while. But while I got you here, okay, before I cut this video off, I'm gonna see if I can find a couple of medium frames. Here, I can use these. I can borrow these out of these boxes, I think, and see. These boxes are just a tad narrower. Okay? Now this is not ideal, okay? And I'm going to explain to you in a second why I did this. See these? They fit in there pretty good. I allowed for the width of 3 frames plus about 1/4 of an inch on between the sidebar or the end bars, the side of the end bars here, and the side of the nuke. Okay, I'm not going to get that fit. I'm not going to get that fit on these boxes. Okay, but I put 3 frames in there. You can see there's a lot of room here, but I am told that having extra room in a mating nuke can save you some time because it makes these frames easier to separate and get out of here. And you're probably not going to have bees in here long enough that you're going to have a big problem with burr comb, because you're going to put a queen in here and you're going to get her mated and she's going to start laying here, and then you're probably either going to sell her to somebody, or you're going to move her to into another box, a bigger box, a nuke or a hive, and let her get started doing her thing. So burr comb won't be a real big problem. Okay.